So you've been looking for a gentle yet effective sleep training method for your baby and you don't want them to cry it out? Well, look no further because we're gonna talk about the chair in the room sleep training method. Now, I hate the name chair in the room. It honestly just it has such a negative connotation, like the chair. I really hate it. So that's my little disclaimer on that, but that is the popular, most well-known name for this sleep training method, so we're gonna go with that. Now, I do love the results of the chair in the room sleep training method because you can be there responsive to your child the entire time you're sleep training, and you can make progress toward your child having independent sleep skills. So jumping right into how this method works, step number 1 is to go through your bedtime routine. You need to make sure that your bedtime routine is soothing and calming and that it is triggering the production of melatonin. I'm not gonna go through an entire bedtime routine in this video. I have other videos that discuss the actual bedtime routine, so let's move on to step 2. Once you lay your baby down in the crib, they need to be calm but awake. A lot of times you will hear professionals saying the term drowsy but awake, and in this video right here, I talk about what that means, and for the sake of not being confused, I am going to say calm but awake. Your child is awake, they are calm, their eyes are open, and they're ready to go to sleep, but they're not sleeping yet. They're not dozing off, their eyes are not heavy, they are awake. Okay, so you've laid them down and now you're sitting next to the crib. So if your crib is right here, you are sitting right next to it. Many parents will sit in a chair, hence the name chair in the room, but sometimes I tell parents if you don't want to move a chair into the room, you can sit on a pillow. I do like having parents having an actual physical item where they're going to sit so that the child can see the item that the child is, or that the parent is sitting in. I want the child to understand this is where mommy or daddy is sitting tonight while I fall asleep. And even if your child is too young to really understand all of that, they may be a little smarter than you think. Just because a baby can't communicate every little thing that they understand, it doesn't mean that they don't know what's going on. So have something physical, whether it's a chair or a pillow, right next to the crib. Step number 3 is to be present. If and when your child begins crying, you want to soothe your baby. I will have my clients go through the soothing ladder when it is time to soothe their child. If you're unfamiliar with the soothing ladder, I go step by step in depth about what the soothing ladder is and what the steps are to follow in this video right here. So check that out next, but keep in the back of your mind that you are not automatically picking up your child as soon as they start to fuss. You want to let your child fuss a little bit and tend to them when they do begin crying. If they're just fussing, it's telling you that they're working it out. They are self-soothing. If they're crying, then of course you can go through the steps of the soothing ladder to calm your child down. Once your child is calm, sit back in your spot and let them be. This is how they're gonna learn to fall asleep independently, so you want to let them do so without your physical touch on them while they're falling asleep. If they start crying again, you can soothe again. And then they're calm, and then you sit. If they cry, then you soothe. When they're calm, then you sit. Does that make sense? So you're going to continue repeating this until they fall asleep. Once your child is asleep, you are going to leave the room and good night until tomorrow, hopefully. If they wake up in the middle of the night, however, you do have to continue doing this same sleep training method all through the night. I'm sorry to say, but yes, you have to continue doing it all night long. Now, step 4 is that over time, every few nights, you want to move further away from the crib. So if you start right next to the crib, maybe you want to go to the middle of the room and then sitting by the door and then sitting right outside the door, and then you're done and your child's falling asleep independently without any help at all. So there you have the step-by-step sleep training method that is going to help your child fall asleep independently while having your support in the bedroom as they learn to fall asleep. Now I have 5 more things that I wanted to say about the chair in the room method that can help you either decide if this is the right sleep training method for your family or to help make it more successful. Number 1 is to know when your baby is self-soothing. So like I said before, if your baby is just fussing, then they are okay and you can just let them be. They are self-soothing. Now you may want to watch exactly what they're doing while they're just fussing, because if they're rubbing their eyes or if they're rubbing their hands together, sucking on their fingers, kicking their legs up and down, or rubbing their head side to side, This is all self-soothing and it is completely normal. You don't want to interrupt your child while they are doing this, because that's how they are self-soothing and it's how they're gonna learn to fall asleep independently. If you continue to interrupt it and try to get them to just lay still and fall asleep, then you're basically telling your child, you don't need to learn how to self-soothe because I'm gonna put you to sleep anyways, and they're going to stop doing that. Just because you're trying to get your baby to fall asleep independently does not mean that they need to lay completely still from the moment you put them in the crib until they fall asleep. They're going to move around, they're going to wiggle. Babies are very active and they are also loud sleepers. So give them the space to do their own thing and intervene if and when they are actively crying. Now, the second thing that I wanted to talk about is that this might not be the best sleep training method for your family if you have a climber, a grabber, or a baby who is constantly pulling to standing and reaching for you. Now, it doesn't mean that it's impossible to try this method. You can always try, but if your baby continues climbing and clinging onto you and it is just more emotional for both you and the baby, then it might not be the right sleep training method and they may need more of an out of sight, out of mind kind of strategy. That is not a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that you are neglecting your child or leaving them, like throwing them to the wolves to figure it out on their own. You can still be supportive. But just knowing that sometimes if your baby is climbing and clinging to you and not really letting the process take place, that this might not be the best solution for your family. The third thing that I wanted to touch on is that I do try to have families not pick up their baby, but if you're following the soothing ladder, then you'll know that it is like at the top of the ladder, one of those like top rungs that you've done all these other things before you're picking up your baby. But even then, I instruct my clients to lean into the crib and lean into the baby instead of taking the baby out to you. So you're going to your baby to give your baby a hug and some love and support and loving them in the crib instead of pulling them up and out of the crib. Because every time you take them out, they think that you're rescuing and that you're just going to put them to sleep. And a lot of times, when babies are overtired and exhausted, if you pick them up out of the crib, the second they put their head down on your shoulder, they're out. So we try to avoid that at all costs. Okay, the fourth thing that we need to talk about, and I know you're not gonna love this, but your baby is going to communicate with you what they need and what they don't need. There are definitely some babies who want the love and support, but if you're not going to rock them to sleep, then they're kind of like, all right, fine, then go away and give me my space. A lot of times with older babies who are able to roll over to their stomachs and sleep on their stomachs, parents think that rubbing their back until they fall asleep is helpful when it's actually not. And your baby will communicate that they want you to just give them space and they will push you away. And as much as you think that you want to be right there supporting them and helping them fall asleep, not every baby needs that. I was just working with an 11-month-old who was co-sleeping with mom, and mom thought it was going to be this really difficult transition and that it was going to take a really long time. So she was continuously trying to physically soothe her baby to sleep and rubbing her back and patting and rubbing and patting and singing, and the baby was actually like annoyed and was just kind of pushing her away and didn't want anything to do with it. So the minute mom just kind of like sat back and turned so that she's not like eye contact stimulating her child, the kid literally learned to fall asleep independently like that. And it was so quick and so easy. And when your child is communicating these things to you, follow their lead. The fifth thing that we need to talk about is adjusting your expectations. Now, when you want to use a gentle sleep training method like the chair in the room sleep training method, you need to expect that this is going to take 2 to 4 weeks to see progress. It might be 2 weeks and it might be 4 weeks, but like I said, if you're following your child's lead and if they're showing you that they need more time before you move yourself like further away from your child, then you need to just adjust your expectations that this is going to take longer. I recently had a 2-year-old client who was in a toddler bed, which I don't recommend, but they had already made the transition because the child was climbing out of their crib. So they really had to have the kid in a toddler bed, and it really just took a month, a little bit longer than a month, for the child to adjust to sleeping independently in their room using the chair in the room method and not getting out of their bed. So it is very, very, very important for parents to understand that this is not one of those overnight sleep training methods where you hear, oh, my baby, I sleep trained them one time and then they started sleeping through the night. They did not do this sleep training method. I would be willing to bet money that they did not do this sleep training method and have perfect sleep in one night. And any family who does actually have their baby learn how to fall asleep that quickly had already been practicing independent sleep skills much earlier than when they actually started sleep training. That's a tangent for another day. Now, I also wanted to throw it out there that it's not always the sleep training method that throws parents through the loop, and sometimes they just need everything written out for them day by day, step by step, and they need someone to hold them accountable for following the plan. That is exactly where I come in as your pediatric sleep consultant. I would love the opportunity to assess your situation, meet you where you are, and write you a customized sleep plan that is gonna help you get from where you are at point A to point B of having your baby sleep through the night. If you are interested in a one-on-one sleep consultation, head to the link in the description box down below and set up a consultation with me. I love supporting families through this transition and making a huge transformation in your family's sleep hygiene. Sleep training does not mean cry it out, and that is not what I will have your family doing, but we will take baby steps to better sleep and keep blooming. Mwah.